We've talked a lot about the progression of technique here at NTS. Over the years, skiers have begun to ski with more and more power, forcing athletes to use more dynamic motions and also utilize body positions that are more upright so that athletes can apply power more directly down into the ground. And by doing so, recruit more muscles and more powerful muscle groups. Steep classic striding, or the Klaebo run as we're showing here, is a perfect example of this kind of technique progression. So can anyone run like Klaebo on skis? And if so, what kind of exercises do we need to use to get there? That's something we're trying to research more here at NTS. Recently, during a speed session, I ran some athletes through a bit of a test, and you can do this on your own too. First, we used this hill and did some repeats, just working on a fast, relaxed striding speed. We're focusing on fast arms and legs, but at the same time using a traditional classic technique with the full extension kick. Step 2 is to turn that stride into a bound. So here we're focusing on an upright body position, running mechanics, but still trying to get a few inches of glide out of each foot. This is something that even World Cup skiers do. You can see Nepreva there in the front, a great example of a bound on skis. It's a cross between a stride and a run. This is an important sub-technique for skiers because it allows them to have a powerful kick down into the ground, but they're not forcing an extremely fast tempo yet. We're not using the extremely fast ground contact that we use in a run. So here skiers are practicing that bounding technique before they start running on skis. Finally, step 3, we turn this bound into a run on skis. And this is actually where the test comes in as well. So we want to see an athlete be able to make a smooth transition from a bound to a run, but more importantly, we want to see their forward trajectory or their velocity up the hill increase when they change into the run. See if you can notice the difference on these two athletes. Here Greg makes a good transition and you see his velocity increase with the run. The next athlete, however, when they switch to a running technique, their velocity doesn't increase. It just stays steady as they climb the hill. What we noticed by doing this test is that more slow twitch style athletes sometimes even decrease velocity when they switch to a running technique. See if you can notice the difference between these two athletes as they begin to run. So what this test shows us is that athletes that can visibly increase their uphill velocity during the run, they've developed the adequate level of power to use a running technique and have it be effective. And they can actually use that quick ground contact to increase their velocity. But athletes that do not show an acceleration when they switch to running, they typically cannot benefit from that quick ground contact quite yet. It doesn't mean they won't, it just means that they need to first increase their power on foot and learn to transfer that Dryland power on their feet to coordination on skis. Basically, the kicking phase during a running technique is too fast for these athletes to be able to apply power the way they need to. So the way we work on this is to first increase power on foot, increase velocity on foot, and then transfer that onto bounding and skiing motions. Athletes will increase their power if they continue to build general strength, but also do power-specific lifts and jumps in the gym. Anytime you're doing a jump with weight, it's a great way to train power. Or doing a jump where you are stepping up onto something or using an incline are all ways that skiers can train power on their feet. This weighted dumbbell step-up jump is a great example. A reverse lunge push press is also a good example of a power-based lift that you can do in the gym. As athletes increase power, they will then benefit even more from foot contact and velocity-based drills. Anytime we're training velocity on foot, it means we're doing multiple response jumps. So that means landing and taking off quickly. This is the best way to train velocity in its purest form. Notice how all these jumps we're focusing on being very stable through the upper body, but being quick and dynamic with the lower body. This is where a lot of our running mechanics drills come in next. We're always focusing on that quick ground contact, but also now training more of a body position, where we can be in a position on our feet that will transfer to skis, where we can generate a kick that goes quickly down into the ground so we can capitalize on that quick ground contact technique that we use while running up hills. Doing very short max accelerations uphill while running with poles is the final piece to make sure you can actually use a Klaebo style technique well on skis. Here we're working on very short 5 to 8 seconds all out, and not a bound but just running with poles. So we're focusing on that quick ground contact, keeping the upper body very stable. Watch how the athletes keep their shoulders and hips pretty level and stable during these accelerations, a quiet upper body enables the skier to have an even more effective and dynamic ground contact with their feet. The point of these drills and this test is to better understand what makes a hill climbing technique like this so effective, and also to help pinpoint exactly what athletes need to work on in order for them to be able to capitalize and use a Klaebo style technique while climbing hills.